Morning Drive, brought to you by Golf Pride.
A very good morning and welcome into Morning Drive on a Monday. Anne Whiteley with you. Delighted to be back on air on golf for the first time in weeks with the team, Damon Hack, Paige McKenzie and Robert Damron. Well, firstly, we truly do hope all of you at home and your families are staying safe during this era of social distancing. It's been a crazy time for everyone. And whilst for the moment this isn't Studio AP, I am delighted to say me and the team will be back every morning, Monday through till Sunday at 9 a.m. for half an hour with all the latest news here on Morning Drive. So let me start with you, Damon Hack, because we've been lucky to catch up most mornings with the team doing the show on social. But what's quarantine look like for the Hack family?
A lot of homeschooling, Anna. We're homeschooling our 8-year-old triplets. My wife does most of the heavy lifting with the tough subjects. I'm the PE coach. I do a little of the reading and writing. I personally have read 2 books myself, one on golf, one on finance, now working on reading a book about the history of wine. So it's nice to be back. I've missed you guys. I've missed our viewers. I hope everyone is being safe.
I do appreciate seeing you and Anna and Robert in this time of social distancing from home. And I know we were only on social media, but I'm sure a lot of people in this country, enjoy at least the video chat to be able to catch up. And for me and my family, I've actually taken to cooking quite a bit. I'm not a big cook. I never have been, but I've had the time to look up some recipes. I made some coconut rice with jerk chicken the other day that was prime. Robert, I'm not a great cook like you are, but I'm gaining on it.
Well, it takes time, and what else do we have right now, frankly, but time? I've read 2 less books than Damon, which is pretty much par for the course for me, 0. I've been playing more golf, a little bit of out on the water, some jet skis, anything that's socially distancing is kind of on the table for me, and also anything to really pass the time. But it is good to be back talking some golf with you guys.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up cooking, guys, because since there's been a lack of going out to restaurants, I've realized that in my kitchen, if it doesn't involve turkey mince or a salmon fillet, then I really haven't got many skills when it comes to cooking up dinner, which I really need to work on. So I have been working a bit on that. And also golf has been such a way to kind of just get away from everything, turn off the phone, turn off the news alerts, and try and have a bit of social interaction from 6 feet apart. But it has been a bit of a saving grace for me, as I know it has you guys as well. But let's get you up to date with all of the news that's going on at the moment. And because the tour has announced this week that they are aiming to resume this season with the Charles Schwab Challenge on June 11th at Colonial Country Club. In a statement, they said that the first 4 events back will be held without fans. New details regarding the specifics on how the PGA Tour will implement this plan have just come to light. According to a report from The Guardian, the PGA Tour is planning to use up to 1 million COVID-19 testing kits in order to routinely check the heel of its players and the hundreds of personnel who will still be needed on site at each tournament. So, according to The Guardian's report, players, caddies and officials will have tests sent to their homes with a further immediate check for anyone who flies to a tournament. There will be additional daily tests at every tournament with a 14-day self-quarantine period for anyone who tests positive. So, Robert, Paige, let's break down this report because it comes with its risks, but of course the PGA Tour are playing it very safe and they are taking a lot of advice from the authorities who have the knowledge. But Robert, coming to you first, if you were teeing it up on tour under these conditions, what do you make of this report?
I mean, I guess I would be happy that they're taking such a hard approach to trying to quell that outbreak if there would be another outbreak. And for the short term, this is the new normal, I suppose, but the protocol for what would happen if a player tests positive. Let's say you play the first event and a player tests positive. Do you quarantine that person, the caddy, all the people that were in the same group with them? I don't think that the tour will be going to the system that we're using at our clubs, which is, putt with the flagstick in at all times. The ball doesn't go all the way in. It ricochets out, no rakes. So it'd be easier to spread it in a tournament like that. there's a lot more questions that come along, as with pretty much anything in this era right now, Paige. There's more questions than answers every time we read something like this.
Unfortunately, that was my takeaway as well, Robert. Yeah, I'd feel relieved as a player that they're going through this very, very thorough testing procedure. But then next is, what if you do test positive? Are you going to be allowed to get that eligibility back for those couple of events? If you're asymptomatic, feel great, feel like you have the ability to play, but cannot for responsible reasons, you're going to lose those events as it relates to your eligibility. So that brings up a new question for me. And the other thing is, the virus isn't going anywhere. So how long is this testing procedure going to be in place? Based on what I've heard from the experts, we don't expect that it's just going to suddenly disappear one day. So does that mean we're just going to continue to test, or they're going to continue to test indefinitely? It's going to be incredibly invasive for these players, these caddies, and logistically, I find it's going to be very difficult to put out. If you're trying to test several hundred people, caddies and players a day, that can be a logistical nightmare.
Well, a logistical nightmare is right. It even without fans, it takes 700 to 800 personnel, people on the site to set up this golf tournament. It's going to be really, really hard to understand. And another thing that kind of concerns me, we have a lot of foreign players that are home now, and they're going to come over to get started. Let's say that their caddy tests positive. A lot of foreign caddies also. Their government, their country may not even allow them to come back and quarantine back at home. They may be stuck here in a hotel room somewhere for 2 weeks just sitting around. There's just a lot of ifs that are going to come around. Also, you look at the areas where they're playing. Hilton Head shouldn't be a huge deal, but you've got Rocket Mortgage in Detroit and Hartford in Connecticut, which are both hard hit. Are they going to be tighter in the testing there? Are the state governments going to step in and say different things at different tournaments? Paige, it's just, again, a lot of questions to be asked.
And this is just the beginning of our country opening up. So I understand that sports have been kind of fast-tracked in this situation. They're going to be maybe the guinea pigs a little bit in how you unroll this opening of the U.S. economy. So I think a lot of eyes are going to be on the golf world and how they are able to do it. But I also know that, they're going to have a million or so tests supposedly. That's not the case for the average American. So again, I wish that I could be a lot more optimistic about hearing this sort of plan of unrolling this out. But frankly, I'm with Robert. There's a lot more questions than answers with this report.
You guys make some great points there. And Damon, as far as we know, the PGA Tour is looking to resume in June. Now, that is, of course, dependent on whether the testing is in place by then. But what is your sort of one big question that you look at when you perceive the idea of play getting back underway?
Gosh, I've got like 10 big questions, Anna. What will the testing look like? How amenable will the players be? They're fiercely independent as independent contractors. And what will the state of the country be, considering there's been a shortage of tests throughout the country? Will there be more tests in June? Will people be balking and upset that professional athletes are being tested maybe before some in other parts of the country? So I still think there's so many unknowns. We sit here in April. This is still 2 months away. Will we have a handle on COVID-19? Will we have the upper hand? Will that curve, as they talk about, truly be flattened enough for things to try to resume as normal? Will we see different things on the golf course? No shaking hands. Will social distancing continue? Because we're so used to seeing caddies and players kind of tightened together on some of these tee boxes. Will everybody be standing 6 feet plus apart? Still so many unknowns.
So many unknowns, and as positive and as much as it gives us hope to see some dates in the diary on the PGA Tour, we know that Jay Monahan and the PGA Tour are going through every single detail to make it a safe environment for when play does get back underway. Okay, well, guys, we've also got some breaking news for you this morning, as the former PGA Tour Commissioner Tim Finchem has been elected to the World Golf Hall of Fame's class of 2021. Finchem, who just celebrated his 73rd birthday yesterday, will enter the Hall of Fame next year under the contributor category. Finchem served as PGA Tour Commissioner from 1994 through to 2016 in an era marked by unprecedented growth of purses and media coverage. A few of his notable achievements on tour were the introduction of the President's Cup, World Golf Championships, and the FedEx Cup. So, Robert Dameron, you played on tour during this period. What was it like playing under Finchem's 22-year leadership?
Well, I always thought that the purses skyrocketing was because that was about the era I was on tour as well. Maybe Tiger Woods had a little something to do with it, but not so much. Tim Finchem actually had to step into some huge shoes. Iconic Dean Beeman was there before him, and he did actually a fantastic job. As far as the business goes, to get the FedEx Cup going, to get all the World Golf Championships going. Even in 2008, when the economy was shaky, the tour kept growing under Tim Finchem's watch. He did a fantastic job, and well-deserved, and congratulations for getting this election in the Hall of Fame.
Very well deserved. The impact that Tim Finchem had on the PGA Tour is completely immeasurable. So we look forward to celebrating that alongside with him too. Well, if you missed any of our conversations, debates, breaking news over the last few weeks, you can catch it all on our social handles, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. But if you are wondering what to do today, then golf has got you covered, because Big Break Mondays continues in true Ryder Cup style, where 6 American golfers and 6 European golfers compete in Big Break 4, USA versus Europe. Up next, we're joined by the show's host, Vince Cellini, with more on the players and moments you won't want to miss in this head-to-head showdown.